There we go. And I'm going to get us started because my clock just turned to 1 o'clock. So again, thank you guys for joining us for our April 26th chapter presidents meeting. If you haven't already, please introduce yourself and your chapter in the chat room. We will be sharing the slides, the chat room notes that Muffy has volunteered to take for us, and this recording on our website afterwards for y'all to watch or review if you need to. And let's get this going today. We have a lot that we want to cover, but I think we're going to be able to stay right at that 1 hour mark with you guys today because it is beautiful out again today. And if you haven't gotten a chance to get back outside, at least here in Central Texas, if you haven't gotten a chance to get outside today, you need to do that. First thing, I added this slide in early because who is going to Big Bend? If you've gotten our email, I added this here. There's a reservation at Big Bend National Park at the Chisos Mountain Lodge for Texas Master Naturalist. It's unclaimed. There's no contact information on file. They're going to drop the reservation, and we've tried to help them make this connection. Otherwise, some very sad naturalists are going to show up in October and not have a place to stay. So if you have not asked, please ask your, Emily, I'll claim it too, and we'll go. It'll be awesome. Except this is the weekend after the annual meeting, and I'm going to be dead to the world for a few days. But yeah, if you've heard from your chapter members that they have a trip planned as a group of friends, or if it's a field session, strategy planning, board retreat, any of that, please let us know so we can make that connection for y'all. And then, and Michelle, I can't remember if you or I were covering this. I think I was.
I think it was me.
No, it is you. That's right.
So real easy, there hasn't been a change in the return to service guidelines. Everything stayed the same. So status quo there for another month. And really, all of the communication we've received to date is that this will be the guidelines until they change, and they don't. I think what they're working towards right now is not much change. So, and then related to this, we've had a couple of chapters ask in regards to planning for fall trainings, and all the communication we have at this time is all related to what you see as the guidelines being right now. We don't anticipate, we haven't been told that there's going to be a change. And so as long as your local communities are allowing groups of a certain number and allowing gatherings of a certain number, right now, I don't foresee us being under guidelines that would prohibit that at this time. So, but as always, this has been an ever moving target and things adapt very quickly sometimes. So just know that we are operating under these guidelines for the foreseeable future that we know of. Next update I have for you is regional WebEx accounts. There is one update on this month, and y'all were busy in March and early April, and we had a lot of recordings and meetings that were recorded on the accounts that took up all of the space we have available. So all the cloud space we have available for the regional WebEx accounts reached its max in March, and the person that handles the global account of Parks and Wildlife saved all the recordings. I have them on a thumb drive, and then we had to delete them in order to free up space quickly. And so if you had recordings of meetings or training events that you still need access to that were on the regional WebEx accounts, I will have them. Contact me. But the new policy that we had as a result of the recordings being there, the new policy that we have to have now going forward is that at the first of the month, every month, we will have to go in and delete what's there. So as a kind of a operations and management at your local chapter level, the recordings on the WebEx account tend to be ready and processed a couple hours after each session. So depending on how long your session or your recording is, the longer it takes to process. So if you will be good stewards of these accounts and go in and save any recordings that you need shortly after your meeting, try to make that a policy at least by the next day. We will have to go in at the first of every month and delete everything that's there just to keep those accounts clean and keep space available for everybody. One note on the WebEx accounts is that we noticed there was an update in April to the system, and breakout sessions are available now. I have not used those much myself in WebEx, so I don't have any tips for you right now, but WebEx, Cisco has really good training videos and a good searchable search engine for training on their site if you wanted to investigate that anymore for your use at your local chapter level. Pins update, all of the COVID pins have been shipped. Presidential volunteer service pins, those are still on back order. We're waiting on signatures on the letter, presidential signatures on the letters for the year. So we're still in a waiting process for those. And then 2021 recertification pins, those are shipped. Shipping has started for those who have already requested for the first quarter. And then just keep in mind that our agency's reopening policy is still at a 50% capacity. So our staff have to coordinate when they can and cannot be in the office, depending on what other people in the office are working. That's at our headquarters building in Austin. And so if there are remaining shipments that need to go out, those will go out as soon as all of that can be coordinated. Staff are going into the office at least 3 days a week in Austin and toggling working from home and working from the office at that 50% capacity plan as we speak. And then going forward on the 2021 recertification pins, we will be sending those out quarterly. So we discussed this at our last president's meeting last week or last month. And I think the overwhelming response from all of your chapter presidents yourselves was that quarterly, having 2021 certification pins shipped out quarterly would work for y'all. So we'll move forward with that policy. And Dan, yes, I got your pins return on back pins. Thank you. Listserv questions. So one of the things I wanted to mention about the listserv, and typically we do this at the beginning of the year and just I failed to do that this year. The listserv is available at our, it's a service of our state master naturalist program. And it is probably it's the quickest piece of, that's the quickest resource we have to get information out to anybody who wants to sign up to that listserv. We have people on the listserv who are master naturalists. We have presidents. We have just people who are interested in knowing what we do. We have people who are just interested in the environment on the listserv that aren't necessarily master naturalists, but may want to join us at some time. So a lot of the information that goes out through the listserv is things people have asked us to share with our networks. It's information that we try to get out in kind of a rapid blast format to our membership and those partners and individuals we work with. The one thing I want to stress about the listserv is that nothing that goes out on the listserv is pre-approved by the state office. And so aside from our TMN Tuesdays and the Be the Change Diversity series, those are the only things that are pre-approved on the listserv. All other advanced training events or things like that, service projects, would need to be reviewed and approved at your local chapter level before sharing them with your members or putting them on a list. And just like, and this is a statewide resource, so it's something that is shared, say maybe for like East Texas, may not be a fitting advanced training event for someone in West Texas. So just please take whatever comes from the listserv, review it. If this is something that interests you, review it at your local chapter level, review and approve at your local chapter level. So nothing, just again, reiterating that nothing aside from the TMN Tuesdays and the Be the Change Diversity series that goes out on the listserv is to be taken as pre-approved.
And then while we're talking about resources that are available on our website, it's good to also mention that our state website hosts our events calendar and hosts a series of other resources, our Naturalist news, where we post information on things that are coming out there. And so we encourage you to check out our state website, as well as a kind of a hub for some of those types of resources and events, like what goes out via the listserv. I had this exact same slide on last month's, but I wanted to give you guys an update on the chapter websites. For those of y'all whose chapter hosts a TMN website through the AgriLife WordPress accounts, there is still no change we're in transition phase right now. So currently we still have no designated go-to person for troubleshooting or technical help if your webmaster of your chapter page has issues. We have been given a first call general email to use for inquiries. Please use that. If you have issues with first call, please let me know. We are just making sure that we're getting the feedback that that our chapters and our websites need in order to operate successfully, especially during this high emphasis on virtual interaction year. We do have video tutorials for how to use WordPress. If you have issues, those recordings are available there. Michelle dropped the link in the chat. We encourage you to use those video tutorials. My go-to help for WordPress sometimes is Googling, how do I do this? And that works like a charm most of the time. It just takes a little bit longer. I am a super admin over all chapter websites. So if there is ever a major issue and I need to jump in, I can. That is another task that is under the little fine print on job description at the very bottom of my job description, other duties as assigned. But I can help you on your website if you need help. If it's a major issue, I can emphasize first call tickets that have not been answered, things like that. If the one thing that is very quick and easy for me to do is that if you have a user on your website that needs to be promoted to an administrator, only my level of super admin can do that, and just send me an email with that name and email address that needs to be promoted, and I can get that done for you. I have requested again to have monthly webmaster trainings restarted through AgriLife, and still awaiting feedback on that. So I will continue to push AgriLife IT as they are still in their transition phase for more help. We've got somebody who's unmuted. Check that out. And then the next thing that we're going to talk about is our TMN Tuesdays and our Be the Change series. We're going to talk about each of the upcoming ones, but just kind of recapping how we've set these two statewide events up. Is the TMN Tuesdays is our second Tuesday of each month. Advanced training topics that we vary seasonally. So we announce those on a rolling month by month basis to keep those adaptable to kind of hot topics or hot issues of the season based off of concentrated interests, such as the Winter Storm Uri impacts. Our Be the Change series is the third Tuesday of each month, which will end in September, hopefully culminating in a workshop to be held in the spring of 2022. And those are diversity inclusion topics. And the goal of this series is to build a playbook and build resources for chapters to use for hopefully many years to come. Our May 11th TMN Tuesday event is going to be hosted by Chris Shank, who is the statewide fire program leader. We're still working with Chris to have a final title for his seminar and a description of all of that he's going to cover. But we'll announce this and we'll put registration out within the next week. I think we were hoping to do it by the end of this week so that we could have that to you guys in your email boxes. And then our May 18th speaker for Be the Change is going to be Alex Bailey. We are also working to get a formal title for his presentation. And once we have that, we'll put that on the website with the registration link as well. And so both of those can be found on our website. Michelle's got those links in the chat for y'all. Again, I don't think registration for either of those is live yet, but we do have the speakers lined up. We're working on getting title and session description so that we can get registration and email announcements out there shortly. While we're talking about Be the Change, one of the ideas that Michelle and I had is we were building this Be the Change series with a couple of the other team members that have joined the group that's kind of helping to organize this, is creating some sort of lasting resource that has resources and questions and conversation starters, almost serving as a strategy guide or a playbook, as we've started to term it, to call it. And these playbook resources, we've hosted them on our website. We have the last 2 months worth. We have March's and April's. And then each of our speakers are going to be contributing to that throughout before and after their sessions. And so we have a question for you guys here. Has your chapter DEI committees, if you have a DE&I, you may call it something different. DEI is the acronym for diversity, equity, and inclusion. Has your diversity committees been able to use these resources? Have you been able to take any actions, realizing that we're 2 seminars down? What have y'all seen out of these 2 sessions that we've hosted so far, and feedback for the usefulness of this playbook? And I'll pause and see if anybody wants to unmute and add anything. Maybe. Julia says that they're still in the building process. That's great. Still working on developing a committee with Nancy. And y'all all really enjoyed David. We all loved David. Really enjoyed David's presentation. So great. Thanks for the feedback. Again, if there are resources that that we can add into this playbook as well, we'll be sourcing some of those from you guys as we go forward with the Be the Change series as well, and we get closer to that that spring 2022. That's going to be a lot of T's. 2022 workshop. As we get closer to that, we'll be kind of building off more of this playbook and looking to you guys if there's resources that you want to add or advertise in there. While we're talking about Be the Change and TMN Tuesday, I just wanted to put this slide back up here. We talked about this last month, but just as a reference guide for logging TMN Tuesday and Be the Change in VMS. Be the Change is a sub-series within the TMN Tuesday event. And so they both get categorized or both get coded under AT TMN Tuesday. Whether watching them as a live or a recorded event. We had the question last month of what happens if I watch the recording today? How many days do I have to log that? You have 45 days from the day that you watched the event, not 45 days from the day from when the event aired. So 45 days within watching to log that.
We've got a related question in the chat from Nancy. She asks, can we use David Buggs's presentation as at training classes? And so all of our TMN Tuesday and all of our diversity series presentation, which is a secondary TMN Tuesday, because they're all on Tuesdays. Those are, you can use those as advanced training for your class. Those can be watched. The recording can be watched for advanced training hours. So the fact that if you use them as an advanced training for your training classes, I think that's great. And doing so as a group can add some time for discussion too.
Mm-hmm. Yes, but they're advanced training, not basic training. They're
right.
Advanced training hours. Okay, I'm going to keep going if there's no more questions. We also launched here today our 1 year later Nature Reflections project. This was something that we started last spring with I'm going to mute Javier. I think he's talking.
Hi, y'all.
Hi. What was I saying? Oh, the Nature Reflections project, or What Nature Means to Me. We've used the titles interchangeably. We launched this originally in the spring of 2020 to kind of get a pulse of how our naturalists were handling the stress of living in a global pandemic and the relief found in nature, and just reflecting on their time with the program and the values that they have benefited out of the Master Naturalist program from to help relieve some of those pressures from the state of our globe at the moment. So we want to ask a 1 year later perspective on where we are and our involvement with the Master Naturalist program and how it has shaped your interactions in the day-to-day, especially during these last 12 months of very tough living situations and global stress scenarios. It's been a very difficult year for everybody. So we've opened this back up. We'll talk about it a couple of different times. We're going to close it at the end of May, just so that we have kind of a culmination and a period of time to collect all of those and then put them out there. And so the question is, reflect upon how nature, and specifically the Texas Master Naturalist program, has given you refuge or provided benefits in this past year. We're asking your chapter members to keep these videos to about a minute. Can be taken with your cell phone in the backyard or even sitting at their computer if that's comfortable for them. They can count the time spent on collecting that video and uploading that video for up to 0.5 hours of volunteer service. Log it under chapter admin. Again, we have that Monday, May 31st deadline, just so that we have a closing time to pull all of those videos off the website and get them uploaded. So help us to spread the message, encourage your chapter members to take that 1 minute video. It was really, really fun to watch those last year. We had an original song, we had poems. We're not only taking videos, we're also taking poems or written thoughts if you're better at writing than you are speaking in a camera. So whatever you're willing to share with us, we'd love to hear it. All right. Any questions? I feel like we're going fast, but this is good. Okay, license plate. This is again the same slide. We have just changed a few things to let you know what we know and what we don't know. We were originally anticipating January to have the plate, then we were anticipating February and then March and then April, and now we are anticipating June for the plate. And this is our communications from the DMV straight to your ears. And so right now what we know is that we should have our plate in June. What we don't know is exactly when in June. They have not been as specific on the details, besides just saying that the delays that they have encountered are internal. It's not only holding up our plate, it's holding up other plates. So we are just part of we're a small bit in the cog that is running at the DMV right now. So they did answer our one question on how to order the plates. We've posted that to our website. Michelle's put that link in the chat there. So we're ready. Maybe, I don't know, June. We'll see. I had one poor master naturalist email me and say, so my registration expires this month. Do you think I can get it? I said, I don't know. So don't hold off on registering your vehicle just for the anticipation of this. I would hate for you to be out there with a out of date registration, just waiting for the master naturalist plate. You can always upgrade. You can always upgrade. Okay, and then going on to our annual meeting, which we're really excited about. We're starting to come together. Things are happening. We have, again, same slide as last time. We wanted to show you guys what is updated, and that's in red. We have collected our budget. We have a final meeting to analyze budget and agenda with our state leadership and our finance team, our business office, to make sure that that what we've got is a good direction for the program. And so that's coming up at the end of April. We hope beginning of May, middle of May, to have a format decision, open that call for proposals, and share all of that information with you guys. For now, we're asking that you continue to hold October 21st through the 24th, and continue to hold August 1st as our anticipated open for registration. That is our hope, is to maintain those timelines as we always have. And Michelle and I, as we're kind of going through all of these steps, we're trying to keep in mind the changing temperature of conferences right now, and kind of I feel like, just being brutally honest, I feel like the week that we asked the question with our survey was the same week that emotions ran really high about pandemics and masks in Texas, and that definitely countered a lot of our survey answers. So we're just trying to collect all of this information and be the best stewards of the financial resources that go into the annual meeting, be the best stewards of your health and your chapter members' safety concerns of going to an event. And so it's not an easy decision that we're making, trying to put together this meeting. We did have one question that Michelle and I wanted to do a quick poll of the room. So I'm going to put this question up, and I want your first answer to this question. If we announced a hybrid conference today, a hybrid meeting with the option to attend in person or an option to attend virtually, one or the other, not both at the same time, one or the other, would you rather go, or would you either go in person or online? Finances aside, not considering the finances.
Go ahead and add your answer to the text chat.
Perfect. Thank you, guys. And so we'll count that up, and we'll look at just the split. One of the things that we heard from the survey is that folks are really interested in this hybrid option, and we're excited about the hybrid option, but there's a lot that has to go into the finances of making a hybrid option potentially work or not work.
And can I don't think
Please.
We're asking this question, but I do want to, I feel like we do need to ask it. So would the cost, so those of you who answered, let's say those of you who answered in person, would the cost, is there like would the cost change your mind for an in-person? So
our annual meeting registration historically for in-person conferences was about $250 to $325 for the full event, not including your lodging. And your lodging would be another $200 or $300 on top of that. It included meals, but it didn't include lodging. So you could have a whole weekend for one individual, not sharing a room, would run $500, $600, $700 maybe, depending on how many nights you stayed. I really need that crystal ball. Betsy asked, are we indicating that costs would go up because of fewer folks attending? No, that's something that we're very conscious of, not changing the cost, but we also want to make sure that if we are going to host an in-person part of the conference, we have contract obligations that we have to meet with the hotel. And so we have to make sure that we've got those covered, and that we are not, that our registration costs reflect the use of facilities or the use of technology appropriately, and we're not overcharging, we're not undercharging. And I have a very complex Excel spreadsheet that is doing all of this budget for us. Michelle, we have some more questions on the next slide. Do you want me to go to the next slide?
Yep.
Okay. So again, with the hybrid option, for the conference, and we still have these contract obligations with the hotel. So we could host a hybrid. So I'm total hypothetical. If we host a hybrid conference, we are still guaranteeing so many folks attending an in-person, lodging with the hotel to meet our contract obligations, meetings. We have a food and beverage minimum at the hotel. We still have to have staffing and technology and the costs for AV that provides for a virtual format for all of the virtual attendees. And so making sure that we have all of those numbers in place. One of the considerations that Michelle and I are wondering or are concerned about is that we've chosen to host this meeting, and this meeting was contracted in 2019, pre-PC, pre-COVID. And we were less concerned about hotel lodging totals than we are right now. Right now, we're very concerned about hotel lodging and if we're going to meet those contract rates. So asking for our DFW regional chapters, which are some of our larger chapters, usually those that travel and spend a lot more, typically are higher lodging rate chapters. Do you think, if you were a DFW chapter president, do you think that your members would be more likely to stay on site or to commute if held in person? And then if you are a non-DFW chapter with a hybrid conference, do you think, well, we can wait for a second.
So let's hear from the chapters in that kind of within that circle area or close to that circle area in the DFW area. Do you think, speaking for your members, if the conference were an in-person conference, would they be attending as like a day use attendee, not seeking lodging on site, and attending as a, what do we call that?
Commuter?
What was it?
A commuter?
Commuter, yeah.
And so again, just this data helps us to consider all of the budget factors as we're going into to these
more information than what we had before.
Yeah. And it just depends on how close you are. Rolling Plains would probably be a much more difficult drive in to the Irving area. We're going to be in Irving. Some of both. Yeah. And we realize that we're putting you guys on the spot answering some of these questions. That was not our intention to put you on the spot, but we're just trying to collect the last little bits of data as we're making these calls, knowing that whatever decision we make with all of that is not going to make everybody happy. Unfortunately, we're going to try really hard. Michelle, I feel like we've asked that last question, and I think that there's some that are already answering that last question there. Speaking for your chapter members with a hybrid conference, which would your membership likely register for? Attending in person or staying on site or online? If you're not in the DFW area and we do have a hybrid conference, do you think your chapter members would travel, lodge, register for an in-person conference, or would just commute, or would just connect online?
So there's a question in the chat, and if you could address this, would there be a price difference for in-person versus virtual, excluding lodging?
Yes. So how we currently view registration would be if you're an in-person attendee, you're going to be paying for in-person costs such as food and meeting space rental and in-person technology. If you're a virtual attendee, your registration cost is calculated based off of virtual costs of the app and the in-person technology that needs to be there to make it virtual, such as microphones and cameras and things like that, and then the event platform. So not making either one pay for a service that they're not using, but making them, I would definitely think that there would be a higher cost for in-person just because food is expensive and meeting room space and stuff like that. Virtual still has a cost, but
different costs for the two that would still need to be covered.
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks for bearing with us on those questions.
Yeah.
Would in-person folks still be able to view sessions online later?
That's a good question. We'd have to answer that as we go through this. If we have in-person folks, could they watch the recordings afterwards? Probably. We'd have to work on the access there. Yeah.
So, and Woody asks, so Woody, I see your question regarding sending this. So I'm not sure that we'd be able to get a survey done before our meeting on, when are we meeting, Wednesday? But we may, if further information is needed, we may be doing another survey with a more detailed survey with members afterwards. We're just not sure yet.
And realizing that we're also way past our standard timeline for annual meeting. By now, I usually have a draft agenda, and we have all the proposals coming in and things like that. So we're trying to make a decision with impossible numbers and an ever-changing climate. So in a hurricane, while balancing on one foot, in there somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay, so now that fun's over, so thank you guys. About the annual meeting, seriously, thank you. Our timeline is Michelle and I have a meeting with our state leadership team to go through some of these final details, final budgets, recommendations from our state leadership, our agency's directions, that kind of thing. And we hope to have a rollout of the final decision in early to mid-May to share with you guys. While we're talking about annual meeting, another thought that we all had while Michelle and I were preparing for today is thinking of the 2020 annual meeting that we just closed out last year. We have the app still active. We have talked about for the last 6 months that it was going to deactivate in April of 2021. I have not seen a whole lot of activity on the site or on the videos in the last 50 days. I ran a report and it looked like about 60 days ago there was some stuff happening, but about the last 50 days, nobody's touched any of the app or the videos. So we will be deactivating it soon, unless we hear otherwise from you guys today that no, we've got members who are desperately relying on these videos. I think we've shifted past that, but we just wanted to make sure before we deactivated it later this week. Okay. Okay.
So yeah, this is I think there's one question about, we planned to take this down by the end of the week. So people who are still wanting or still needing to watch something probably need to get it done by the end of the week, the 30th.
We can send that out in the listserv as well. Okay, some more questions. Tough questions, hard questions. What do we do? Questions. So we want to take the next 2 slides to ask some questions and open the floor up for some discussion. These are, we got 4 different questions that came in over the last month from y'all and through our office that we want to again ask for your feedback and your opinions on. One question is, we had talked about during the last virtual volunteer fair, we had talked about potentially hosting a summer or a fall version of the virtual volunteer fair again, mid-August, early September was 2020's virtual volunteer fair. Our question to you is this still necessary? We feel like the climate for volunteering has changed in the last few months. Now we are in that spring influx of beautiful weather, time to get outside, easy to distance, and easy to get your volunteer hours locally. But we want to, again, make sure that we're providing resources to your chapters and to you if they're still needed. So our question is, do you anticipate the need with your chapter members for a virtual volunteer fair summer fall 2021? Is this something that we should spend our energy on creating for your chapters? And we got Rich asked what was reflected in VMS from the last one. Tons of work came out of both of the last 2 virtual volunteer fairs, very successful and very worthwhile. I think that it was they're great resources to connect volunteers who are unable to or don't have the connections to service outside of the area that can be done from home or virtually or at a distance. And this is a great way to provide that connection for them. So we're getting a lot of great comments, and Michelle, maybe you and I can pull these comments and kind of go through each one of them.
They're all saying good, do it again.
Okay. We might have to push that up into August sometime to August or September. Yeah. Okay. And then the next question, again, and I'm just moving on. So if there's more in the chat, Michelle, holler at me. The next question that we got, and we're probably just going to discuss this. We're going to delay the discussion on this one because we've got a lot more on the next slide. We've talked about having a photo repository at the statewide level, a place where chapters can store their photos online in easy format, where the state office has access to those photos to use for marketing and for promotion and engagement of the chapters. It helps provide you a resource with storage and organization of your chapter photos and archival of your images. So this is something that we're going to look into, but we wanted to know if this is something that would be useful for you, or how your chapter currently collects and stores photos. I'm going to delay answering this question until May, and we'll ask it again in May because we want to get to the next one. Okay, so Michelle, you want to take lead on this one?
So we've had a couple questions come into the state office or to our VMS help desk over the last, since we've last met. And these are two of them. And periodically we pull chapters to get updates on what their chapters are doing in these areas. And so our first question is, we've had from a couple of chapters, what do chapters charge for dues, if any? And so I'd like you to answer in the chat what your chapter is currently charging for dues. That's going to be the first question. So I'll give you a few seconds to answer in the chat what your chapter is charging for dues.
So it looks like it's ranging 20, 25, 15,
0 to 40 so far.
Yeah.
With 20 probably being the...
And some has no dues, and some are considering dues that currently don't have them.
Okay. So the next question, does your chapter offer anyone assistance for chapter dues in the form of a scholarship or a partial scholarship? If you want to drop that in the chat.
All right, I see the idea of having a raffle to encourage early payment or early dues turn in. Some do, some have discounts or assistance, some individual gifts of membership.
Okay, things are slowing down on that one. So we can, well, maybe they were, I'll give you a couple more seconds to drop your information in the chat on that last question, and then we'll move on. All right, we'll move on to the next question. The other question we've received at the state office right now or recently is which chapters are carrying additional insurance, whether that's board insurance, accidental or medical insurance, and then Mary Pearl, if you want to mention, if you could go over the insurance document,
Yeah.
And then let her do that, and then y'all can go on with answering the question.
Yeah, so in 2017, 2016, we developed an insurance one-pager with the two state agencies to talk about what is currently covered under the two state agencies for Master Naturalist volunteers or Master volunteers during their service as volunteers for the state agencies. And so that is covered in that Insurance and Liability 101 one-pager. There is some coverage both from AgriLife in its an indemnity, and then in the excess liability that's provided through Parks and Wildlife. There's clauses for all of that. All of that's covered in that one pager, along with some FAQs on D&O, use of vehicles. I'm not remembering all of the different things that are on there. there are some things that are not covered, such as D&O insurance, or additional chapter-based accidental or medical insurance. And so that's our question to you, is if you carry extra or if you have, yeah, extra insurance.
Yeah, and so we're asking this question because a couple of other chapters have asked to know this from other chapters for this year. So we said that we'd help gather that information through this meeting. And as with insurance, everything is always so the answer with insurance, everything is a if then question and answer type. And there's no yes, you have to have it, or no, you shouldn't. There's a lot of things that's dependent on a lot of different things for your chapter. So every chapter situation is going to be different as to whether or not you want to or need to carry BOD insurance or directors and officers insurance. And we do have to say that if that is something that you're interested in pursuing or finding more about, that you would need to visit with an insurance professional on.
Yeah, some of the questions that we heard when we were developing the one pager is depending on a chapter's 501c3 status, depending on their physical location, depending on their financial or physical holdings, if they have physical holdings, depending on their a whole array of different questions has to get answered. And so again, that's why there is no one size fits all easy answer for that. So highly suggest, if you are curious, to contact the local insurance professional to get some of those questions answered that we cannot answer for you.
Yeah, and consult the one pager. I'm going to drop that again in the chat. And then secondly, consult an insurance professional.
Okay, and then we've got just 2 more slides left just to kind of close out this meeting. I feel like we've gone pretty quick today, but we've got 9 minutes left in the hour. So if there are any other questions for open discussion that we want to pose for today in the last couple of minutes, or if there are questions that you want to ask similar to those that we just asked, we can host them in next month's meeting in this roundtable Q&A format, or if you wanted to unmute and ask those questions, we can do that at the end of today's meeting as well. I'm going to close this out real quick with these last 2 slides, and then we'll come back to the further discussion question. Wanted to just wrap up last week's National Volunteer Week and say thank you so very much for everything that you've done, for your leadership, your perseverance, all of the fantastic adjectives that that we could use to describe you and your chapter members. We've shared our National Volunteer Week 2020 summary on our website. Michelle's going to drop that in the, actually, I don't know if I put that link in our cheat sheet, but that is on our website, so y'all can go to our website and follow that link for this one pager. Feel free to use that as you need to. And then just wrapping up last week's Earth Day, and then wrapping up April this week with National Volunteer Month. We will host our next meeting May 24th. As a note, just watch the next couple of months start to get a little funky. I know that this has been a regular last Monday of the month. Next month and the following are the next 2 of the standard timeline. After that, it gets a little weird. We are going to cut out July and just host one summer meeting to cover both July and August. October's is at the annual meeting, and then November and December on a different schedule. So just watch those. Okay, and with that, we'll close, and Michelle and I will hang around and answer some questions as they've come in on the chat. Thanks, guys. That was fast. Hope y'all are well. Hope you guys go outside now.
Could you possibly show that schedule again so I can write those dates down?
Absolutely. There we go. And the link is the same, and I'll send it out a week or so ahead of time. I see the question in the chat, when will the next new class directors meeting take place? We need to get that scheduled within the next probably within the next couple months. We need to get that scheduled. We have not scheduled that one yet.
So I just quick question. This is Dan Porter.
Hi, Dan.
Can we use the TMN Tuesdays for our training class?
You can use the TMN Tuesday as advanced training. It cannot count for it basic training.
Okay.
Good question.
I got those dates now. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, this is Rich Nielsen. I was just thinking, since we use WebEx and you guys use Zoom, wouldn't it be cheaper just to have one large account for all of us as opposed to two?
Our agency wouldn't support Zoom for all of our members for chapters to use.
So
Okay.
I run the chapter meetings with Zoom, the president's meetings with Zoom, because it's my preferred platform. And Zoom allows for more interaction, like you being able to unmute and videos and all of that. WebEx is our agency's preference for webinars and seminars with a large audience attendance. It has a higher security feature and function with chat and or Q&A, and then limited attendee privileges. And so we use them interchangeably, and that's where Parks and Wildlife has been able to offer the WebEx accounts for our chapters.
Yeah. No, I just thought it would save money, but yeah, it works.
We're making it work. Any other questions?
Another question or a comment that I have is that are the emails that we have through the Texas Master Naturalist group I've got 2 times they've been hacked into, where they've sent my members an email from me that says, go buy credit cards and send me the numbers off of them.
Are you talking about the Gmail, the regional naturalist accounts?
I guess I don't know if it's out of your website or what, but they get all of the officers' names and emails and send them emails from me.
That's not from the
I
regional.
think
WebEx,
it's
that's
web
something else.
crawlers.
Yeah, that's got to be something else, Dan. Let's review your website and see if you have your chapter members contact list in a
Private or okay. It might not be under private. It might be just wide open for anybody to look at.
Yeah, let's look at you. Let's look at your website.
Elsa, this is Elsa. We're having the same problem getting these emails. We have completely removed our roster off of our webpage.
Okay. Dan, do you have your email roster on your chapter member email roster on your website?
I don't know. I'll have to ask the web person tonight.
I'd imagine that that's probably where it's coming from.
Okay.
And it's maybe not in a
Secure deal.
yeah, or there's not a secure security function isn't enabled as it should be. And that's where I need to ask AgriLife IT for some help.
But do we need the phone numbers and emails and stuff on that website, or
No,
do
you
we
don't.
do all of that?
No, you don't. If your chapter members want to have a chapter membership roster, you can choose to do that in whatever function. I've seen some chapters posted on a password protected page on their website. Some have it on a Google Drive. Some email it as a PDF once a year, and that's it. That's all that you get. It just depends on how you or your membership wants to have their contact information shared, if at all.
Okay, I'll have our webmaster look at that.
Yes, sir.
And like I said, that might be the problem we have.
Just for information, what we did, we took it off of the website, and in its place under our membership, we have a little notation there that if you need any information, private information about another member, they are to contact our VMS manager, who will verify that you are a member and is responsible for getting that information to whoever might need it.
Yeah. All right, any other questions? Michelle, I'm going to end the recording. I see that we're right at 2 o'clock.